Hi guys, it's BJ here. Welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to build this call center analytics dashboard. So the purpose of this dashboard is to monitor performance and support day-to-day operational decisions that improve efficiency and service quality. So now we have the total calls, which is total number of complaints. Then we have the answer rate, followed by resolve rate, and the speed of response. That means the time it takes them to pick the call in seconds. And then we have the average talk duration, and we also have the customer satisfaction. Then on this chart here, we have a line chart. So we have the total calls for that month or for the month. So the data span across 3 months all the way from January to March. Then we have the total number of calls answered, and also we have the total number of issues resolved by months. Then we have this department analytics. So we have the fraction or the percentage of calls picked by department, and also the resolve rate by department as well. Then on this part here, we have the total calls that came through. So we want to know our peak call hour. So from here, you can see that our peak call hour is afternoon from here, then followed by morning, then midday. Then on this part here, we have the employee performance analytics. So here we have this text box, top performer, and also we have this another text box for the least performer. And then we have each employee's KPIs to keep track of their activity. So we have the total calls that came through to that employee, the amount of it they answer in percentage, then the resolve rate, then we also have the speed of answer in seconds, and also we have the average talk duration, and also we have the average customer satisfaction. So we have each of these metrics for each and every one of these employee, and we also track performance among the employees. So from here you can see that the resolve rate, Greg has the most resolve rate without filtering, and Stewart has the least resolve rate. So we can see that we can get a quick view from this part here. And also we can filter by month. Let's filter by January. So the total complaint is 1,772. Then we were able to answer 82% of those calls, and also we were able to resolve 90% of those complaints. And the speed at the amount of time it takes for us to pick calls is 67 seconds, and the average talk duration is 3.77 minutes. Then the average customer satisfaction is 3.45. Okay, so as you can see, in the month of January, Becky has the least performance, while Dan is the top performer. So we can also see it from this view here. So that is that. So let's dive in. Okay guys, welcome back. So this is the data set in which we'll be using for our analysis. So let me go over each and every one of these columns. So we have the call ID, which is the total complaints. So it's about 5,000 records. Let's verify that. So about 5,000 records, including the header. Then we also have the dates of those complaints. Then we have the agent that answered to those complaints, and the department in which the complaint is for. Then we have if they answer the call or not, and also if the issue was resolved or the complaint was resolved or not. Then we have the time it takes them to pick the call in seconds, and also we also have the talk duration. So please just omit this average talk duration. So it's talk duration. So then we have the customer satisfaction, which is the CSAT here. Okay, so now what we are going to do here is that we'll be doing some data transformation here. So, and also we won't be doing much of data cleaning. Let me just show you something here. So on this row 7 here, as you can see, we were not able to answer the call. Likewise, for some records, we are not able to answer the call. So that means if you're not able to answer the call, the issue was not resolved, and the speed of answer that time be present since we didn't answer the call. Likewise for the talk duration, and as well as the customer satisfaction. Now, what we are supposed to do here is that we are supposed to use the mean or the median to treat this null data points, and as well as this, but we won't be doing that. What we'll be doing is that we'll be filtering for only the yes, because we only need that. We will be filtering only for the yes. then dividing it by this call ID so that to know the answer rate of the call we received. So that's why we don't need to treat these missing values. So because we don't need it. But and also I don't want us to delete this record or to remove this record because the total call ID is valid, is a valid data. So we can't remove these records. We'll be dividing this answered by the total call so that we can know our answer rate from the call which we didn't answer. So if we have a call of 5,000 and we have an answer rate of 80, that means we will not be able to pick about 20% of those calls. So hope you understand that. So here I'll be doing some data transformation like I said. Now, so the first step is that we are going to extract this hour from this date column, and also be extracting month for the slicers, which is for the January, and for the hour we'll be extracting it and turning it into daytime, such as morning, midday, and afternoon. So now let's proceed with that. So let's create a new column. So this is a table, so let's create a column. So it's going to be hour. Now we'll be using the Excel hour function. So select this and click enter. So now this is a numeric data. So let's change it to numeric or number and remove the decimal. So let me change this back into a short date form. Okay, so now from here, let's insert a new column. Let me use month number. Let's insert another new column. So this is going to be month in name. Why I've been needing this month number, because we didn't use month number in our slicers, is because we are going to sort this month's name here, which is January, February, March. We are going to sort it by this month number, or else our data won't be in chronological order. It's going to be in alphabetical order. So that's why I'm using this month number here. So to do that, just enter the month function and select this data here and click enter. The reason why you are seeing this here is because they're supposed to be in number and not in date format. So you are going to convert it to number. Okay, so that's that. And also remove the decimal. And for the month's name, we'll be using text, the text function. Text. So select this value. And we want the first 3 characters of every month. So close the bracket and press enter. Okay, so that's that for that. And now, so back on this, yeah. So what we'll be doing here is that we'll be using some ifs and function. That's what we'll be using here. So now, to do that, let me just create some helper column. So let's use dt. Okay, dt. Now, we'll be using ifs function. So equals to ifs. Okay, so let me explain the logic here. So we want to bin from 9 a.m. all the way to 11 or 11:59. So we want to bin it into morning. Then from 12 p.m. all the way to 2:59, we want to bin it into midday. And from 3 p.m. all the way to 6 p.m. I want to bin it into afternoon. So that's the logic which we'll be doing here. So for this part here, we'll be testing two sides. We'll be testing if. So let me just proceed with this and so that you can see this. So we'll be using the AND function. So if this AND function is true, it will proceed with the value if it is true. So AND. So what we want to do here is that we want to check if this data point here is greater than or equals to 9. Okay. And also if it is less than 12. Let me put some space in here. If it's less than 12, so we are closing the AND. So if this value is true, then we want the value to be morning, and then close it. Now let me remove this ifs here and just use as one statement. Yes. Let's remove this. I'll be returning that back. So let's just test if this is working first. Okay, it is working. So now let's proceed with and midday and afternoon. So ifs. Now another AND statement here, which is logical test. So let's copy this. Ctrl C, then Ctrl V. For the second test is going to be if it is greater than or equals to 12 and less than 3 p.m., which is 15, we want it as comma. So I want the output of midday, then close the double quote. Okay, so now let's do for afternoon as well. So if it is greater or equals to 15 and less than 18 or equals to 18, the reason I'm using equals to is because that's the last value from this hour because we only have about 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for these data points here. So comma, we want afternoon. Okay, so let's enter and see if it's working. So we're on the right track. We're on the right track here. Okay, so now let's filter and see. Okay, so afternoon, midday, morning. Okay, so that's that for the hour. Now here I want to standardize this Y and also the N. So let's go ahead and standardize it. So let's filter first for Y for yes, and use the fill. Okay, so now let's filter for N as well as no, then fill. Okay, so let's clear the filter from here. Clear filter. So let's do for the resolve as well. So okay, so for N as well. Okay, so let's clear the filter. So we are done with this. Now for this stock duration, let me clear this average. So for this stock duration, we want to convert this. This is 2 minutes 23 seconds. So we want to convert this into minute directly. So it's going to be 2.2 some or 2 point something minutes. So that's what we want to do here. So now let's insert some column. Insert. So this is going to represent M for minutes. And also let's insert another column. Insert. So S for seconds. S for seconds. Okay, so now we'll be using the minute function. Click enter. So this is actually a time data here. So we want to convert it into a numeric data. So click on this here and select number here. And also the reason why you are seeing this value error, which we are later going to clean, is because there is no data or a record for that. That's why you are seeing this value error. That means the formula here is also applying to this, but this data point here doesn't exist. That's why you are seeing this value error here. So now let's proceed with the seconds as well. Okay, so likewise, it should be in number. Okay, so that's that. Let's insert another column because we are going to sum this up. Okay, so what we are going to do here is that this is in seconds and this is in minutes. So to convert this into minutes, we have to divide this by 60. So 60 seconds make 1 minute. So that, put it in bracket, then divide by 60. Click enter. Okay, so now let's validate this with our calculator. So 23 divide by 60. Okay, 0.3833. So it's 0.38. So we're on the right track. So let's sum this up. Minutes plus this. Okay, so 2.38 minutes. Okay, so this is going to be our talk duration. So talk duration. Let me just leave it as talk duration. This. Okay, so now what we'll be doing here is that, so we are going to be removing some columns here, which is talk duration, minutes, seconds, and also hour here. So I'm supposed to proceed and delete this column directly, but you can't do that here because this here are a reference of this. That means this value here are a reference of this. So what I'm going to do here is that I'll be creating a new column here. So we are going to store this value as it is in its exact form and not in reference. So to do that, right click on this here, click insert. So let's just use TD as the talk duration. Let's just signify that as talk duration. We are still going to change the column header. So now we are going to copy this. And before we copy it, let's delete all these value errors that we have here. Let's delete those data points. So to do that, let's filter for answer is no. Okay, so that's that. Click delete on your keyboard. Okay, so now let's clear the filter. Okay, so let's select the data point and copy it. Okay, so first let's filter for yes. Okay, so hold the shift key and the control key, then press the down arrow key. So we have select, then control C for copy. Then on this part here, just right click and paste as values. Okay, so that's that. Let's remove these columns here since we won't be needing them. So select the column and click delete. So as you can see now, we have deleted the main column. That's why you are seeing this reference error here. So let's delete the rest of the columns. So the reason why you are not seeing reference error here is because we paste as values and not as reference. So that's why you are not seeing this error here as well. So let's delete the rest of the column. Okay, so now we don't need this our column here. Let's change this header. Okay, so now we won't be needing this hour column here since I've already generated the datetime. But if you are to delete this, we are going to receive a reference error here. So now to avoid that, let's create a new column. So insert. So this column is going to be label datetime. And we are going to copy this. So hold the shift and the control key, then the down arrow button. Okay, then control C. And also same step, paste as values. Okay, so let's delete this column, delete, and delete this column as well. Okay. Okay, so I want you to notice something from here. So check this, answered yes or no. As you can see here, the call was not answered. That means the issue was not resolved. So you can't be able to know the speed of answer since the call was not answered. And also this is supposed to be blank data point as well, but Excel automatically generated this while we are doing our copy and paste. So what we'll be doing is that we'll be deleting these values for where the call was not picked. So now let's filter for answer no. So for this talk duration, as you can see, no. So And if you are probably seeing this, that we also have the data point for this, it was because we are trying to measure the total volume of calls. That's why you are seeing this data point that exists here, because the call came through, but we didn't pick it, and also the time it came through. So that's why you are seeing this here. So for this data point here is invalid. This one is a valid data point. Why this one here is an invalid data point? Okay, so now let's delete this record. Shift, Control, then select the down arrow key. So then press delete on your keyboard. Okay, so as you can see, the data point for talk duration for where the call was not answered, all should be blank now. As you can see, it's all blank. Okay, so now let's clear the filter. Okay, so now what we'll be doing next now is we will be transferring this data into Power Query. So from there, we are going to add a new table which will be storing our KPIs, and then transfer it or create a connection to it to our data model, which we can access from the Power Pivot. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So click any of the data points, anywhere on the data points, and head over to data here and select from table/range. Okay, the data has loaded into Power Query. So I believe you have to explain, you understand why these are nulls values, why they are nulls. I've explained it. Okay, so now let's create a new table. Enter data. So this is where we'll be storing our KPIs. So KPIs measure and click OK. So this is all we need to do here. So it's going to be loaded. Okay, it's loaded. So now click close and load to. Please be careful of this is close and load to, because I'm only trying to create a connection. We don't want to load this into our Excel directly. So close and load to. So only create a connection and add this data to the data model. So click OK. The reason why we are using add to data model is because we want to sort this month's name by this month's number, or else it's going to be sorted in alphabetical order. Okay, so the data is loaded. Now to access it, click on this manage data model. So just click on this, or if you have this Power Pivot option, just click on Power Pivot and click manage. So you can access it from those two places. So let's go back to data, click manage data model. Okay, so this is it. So this is our data set, and also this is the KPI measures. So since this is our fact table and we don't have any other dimension table, so we don't need to do any data modeling here. So let me show you the diagram view. So as you can see, this is our only data set. We won't be creating any connection to this KPI measure at all. So let's head back to our data view again. So now the only thing I said we'll be doing here is that we'll be sorting this month here by this month's number here. So click on the column header, then go to sort by column, then sort by column. Then we want to sort this month by month number. Click OK. And that is that. Now we are going to transfer this to our pivot table. So from this same home here, click on pivot table. So it's asking us if we want to store it in this worksheet or existing worksheet or new worksheet. So we want to use a new worksheet. Click OK. Now on this new worksheet, let's change it to calculation, since this is where we'll be storing our calculation. Click enter, and let's just move it over to this side here. So now this is where we'll be creating our KPIs. So we'll be creating our KPIs here. So the first KPIs, which is the total calls or total complaints. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now this KPIs measure, click on it and right click, select add measure. So we'll be doing some DAX calculation here. So it's going to be total call. So what we'll be doing here is that we'll be counting rows. We are going to count the row because each rows from our data set is a complaint. So we'll be using the count rows. So equals to count rows. Count rows. So which row do you want to count? We want to count this our data, which is still this. So double click on it and close the bracket. So let's check if our formula is working. Check that formula so it doesn't contain error. And also the format, you want it in whole number. Since this is not a fraction, so you want it as a whole number, and use 1000 separator. So click OK. So let's see this. So we have about 5000 total calls or complaints. Then we have our answer rates. So now we'll be using the calculate function here. So now you want to use the calculate function to filter for where the call was answered. So we'll still be using our total call KPI, which is all created, but now we'll be filtering for where the answer called or the answer is yes. So now search answer equals to, so don't forget your double quotes, yes. So that's that. So close the bracket and let's check if it's working. Okay, so now this is a whole number as well. Whole number. And also let's give it a name. Answer yes. And click OK. Okay. So let's put this below. Okay. So now we won't be using this answer yes directly. We need the rate from this. That means from the total call, we want to know the percentage of calls that was picked. So from here, right click, add measure. So we'll be using answer rate. So we'll be using the divide. So we'll be dividing the answer yes and dividing it by the total call. Then put 0 here in case if you have a divide by 0 error. So close this bracket. So this is going to return a decimal, but we want it in percentage. So percentage and click OK. So now let's remove this answer yes because we won't be needing it. We only need this answer rate. Okay, so we're on the right track. Then our next KPI is resolve rate. So the resolve rate, that means when the call was picked, was the issue resolved or not? So we'll be counting our resolved, we'll be filtering for resolved. After filtering for resolved, we'll be dividing this result, the resolve by this answer here, which is this answer yes here. So that's what we'll be dividing by. So let's go ahead and do that. So add measure. So resolve first. Then is calculate. So we'll be calculating from our answer call, which is yes, the amount of issue that was resolved. So we'll be using answer yes. There is a logic here. So answer yes, that means from the total call that was answer yes, how many of these we're able to resolve. So we'll be using the resolved. So filter for what? Yes. Filter for yes. Then close the bracket. Then is a number, a whole number. So click OK. So now let's check. Okay. So now we don't need this actual value. We want the percentage that was resolved from this answer yes here. So now to do that, right click, add measure. So we'll be using the divide function. Divide. So we'll be dividing the resolve from the answer yes. So 0 and then put resolve rate. So it's going to return a decimal. So we want it as percentage and click OK. So let's validate it. Okay. We also want to calculate the average speed of response. Yes, the average speed of response here. It's supposed to be average speed of response. Okay, so from here, click add measure. So put average speed of response. I'm going to average speed of answer. Close the bracket. So this is a number. You want it as whole number. And click OK. So now let's check. Okay, we're on the right track. Then followed by average talk duration. Add measure. Average talk duration. So I want it in 2 decimal place. Okay, so then the last KPI, which is the average customer satisfaction, which is CSAT, AVG, CSAT, average satisfaction rating. So 2 decimal place as well, and click OK. Now let's check. Okay, so this is our main KPI, merge and center. So main KPI. Okay, so let's put it. Okay, so that's that. So let's proceed with our monthly volume calculation as well. So let's copy this and paste it here. So let's remove this. So we need the total call, the answer, and the resolve count. Now we are going to filter this by our month. So okay, so as you can see, it's sorted in chronological order. So remove this grand total. Okay, so let's label this merge and center monthly call, answer, and the resolve count. Merge and center. Okay, so now call rate by date time. So let's copy this. Ctrl V. Okay, so call rate by date time. So then from our KPI, total call. But we want this in percentage. So show value as percentage of grand total. Then remove this grand total. Okay, so now let's do department analytics. So copy this, paste, and total calls by department. Okay, so now this is the call rate in percentage as well. So now let's do for the Let's paste it here again. So we want the resolve, so department, and also from here we want the resolve rate. Okay, so we want the resolve. Okay, but we want it in percentage. So we show value as percentage of grand total and remove this decimal. Okay, that's that. So now let's go ahead and define our employee metrics. Okay, so before we define it, I want to show you what this chart actually means here. So this is just the total calls they received and the amount of issue they're able to resolve from those calls. So this is the resolve yes, why this one is the resolve no. So that's what this chart here means. So we go ahead and define the pivot chart for that, and as well as the one for these metrics as well. So let's go ahead and define the employee analytics metrics. Okay. Okay, so let's copy this, Ctrl C, and paste it here. Let's remove this. Okay, so for each and every one of those agents, okay, we have the total calls, it's in percentage. Let's remove that. Let's remove this. Or let's change the value. Show value as no calculation. Okay, so that we also have what? We have the answer rate. So let's move the answer rate. And also we have the resolve rate. Resolve rate. What else? We have the speed of response or speed of answer. So average speed of response, and also average talk duration, and as well as average customer satisfaction. Okay, so we are done with this metric. We are still going to do some conditional formatting for this resolve rate here. Like I said earlier, that we are going to use some conditional formatting. So, and also we also be taking out the top performer and the least performer from it. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this here. So this in percentage. The reason why I'm bringing this out is because we can't use this value directly inside our text box here. You can't use this value directly inside our text box, so we can't import directly from pivot table. So we can't bring this value in directly into our pivot table. We have to output it separately before we can be able to do that. So this is what we'll be bringing in into our text box and not this. So we are not allowed to bring this in. That's just how Excel is being designed. Okay, so this is in percentage. Likewise this. And also let's change this to number and remove the decimal. Average talk duration as well. Let's just leave it in 2 decimal place. And for the average customer satisfaction in 2 decimal place as well. Okay, so that's that. So let's search for our top performer here. which one? This resolve rate. So TP or top performer. So our top performer, to get our top performer, we have to use X lookup. So X lookup. So what are we searching for? We are searching for the maximum value from what? From this range here. Okay, so which array should it look up? You see the same array. So which array should it return? Should return these values here. So if not found, return 0, 0, and 1. So close the brackets and click enter. So our top performer here is Greg. Likewise, we do for the minimum value as well, which is the least performer. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So least performer, so we'll be using minimum instead of max. Okay, still what? Okay, so let's go ahead and do for this as well, because we input this inside the text box from here. So we get the departments in which you have the most call rates, and also the departments in which you have the most resolve rates. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so X lookup. So we are searching for the maximum here from this range. So lookup array to stay from this range here. So the array we want it to return this here, return 0. Then also the match mode, we want it to be exact, and we want 1. So close the brackets, click enter. Okay, so that's that. So let's do for this as well. For the resolve rate, X lookup. So we want the maximum value. So this works exactly like index match, if you know what index match is. So it works exactly like index match. So maximum value. So look this range here. So return array, return value from this here. If not found, return 0, exact, 1, first to last. Close it and click OK. Enter. Okay, so that's that. So let's do some conditional formatting here. So from this resolve rates here, let's do some conditional formatting. So select this range here and click conditional formatting, new rule. So we want this here, and I want the first ranking value. So let's format the color to be green and click OK. Okay, so from this same range again, so conditional formatting, new rule, only top or bottom, but this time we want the bottom and we want 1. So format it as red. Okay, so that's that. So now let's define our resolve rates here. So let me copy this, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, so remove this and also remove this. So now agents and resolved. Okay, so we want the resolved count. So let's change this to number instead of percentage. Let's remove the decimal. Okay, so what we'll be doing is that we are going to filter this for each and every one of those employees. So what I'm actually trying to do here is that I want this to be for each donut chart for each employee to have his or her own donut chart here. If you were to use this directly like this, let me give you an example. Bring out a pivot chart here and just select this donut chart here. As you can see, this is how it looks. So this is not what we want. This is not what we want. So let me show you an example of what we want. Let me filter this. For only Becky, so that you can get it. Okay, as you can see now, so I'll filter for Becky. So likewise, I can duplicate and also filter for Dan, filter for Diane, Greg, Jim, Joe, Martha, and Stewart. So that's what I want. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me delete this, or let's undo it. Okay, so now let's filter for only Becky. Now let's copy this, Ctrl C and Ctrl V. So we filter for Dan. Likewise, here again, Ctrl V. Okay, so this is it. Okay, so this is it for our calculations. Okay, so this is it for our calculations. So let's go ahead and build our dashboard background in PowerPoint. Hi guys, welcome back. So this is the dashboard background in which we'll be building in PowerPoint. So I have my color picker here, so I'll be using that in picking those colors. So you can also download it or get it on Microsoft Store. So that's that. Okay, so let's proceed with that. So first of all, I'm going to remove this. So delete. Now for the background, we have what color? A blue color. So let me use color picker. Okay, Ctrl C. Okay, right click, format background, color, more colors, custom. Okay, that's that. So let me bring this in. So this color will match our background. So let's remove the outline. And as well, remove this one outline as well. Okay, so let's change the color of this. Okay, so we're on the right track. Okay, so let's bring in our KPI background and as well as our chart background. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so Control D to duplicate. And Control D again to duplicate. Okay, welcome back. So let's proceed with this. So now let's create a new sheet. So this will be our dashboard. And also let's remove the grid lines. And also let's remove the grid lines for this calculation. Okay, so that's that. So let's bring in our background, insert pictures, this device. So let's stretch it. Okay, so this is it. So now let's bring in our KPIs. So bringing our KPIs, we have to put them inside another cell. We can't get them directly from this here. So I have to put them directly into another cell. So just click on this and click enter. This is in 1000. So let's denote that. Okay. And also this one is in percentage. Okay, so now let's bring in the text box. So insert text box. So this is going to be our total call. So let's create the label first. Our total call. And also let's remove the background. So right click on this, format shape, no fill. And also for the text color, let's change it to white. So Ctrl A to white. Okay, so let's remove this outline as well. No line. Okay. So for this here, I'll be using Sego UI semi-bold font. So that's the font I'll be using for this. Sego UI semi-bold. Okay. So now let's total call. Okay. So then followed by Ctrl D, answer it. Okay, so now let's bring in those values and the charts. So duplicate this and clear this. Let's clear it. So from here, we'll be using calculation. We'll be heading back to our calculation and select this value here and click enter. So that's that. So let's bring in all the whole value before we start formatting. So Ctrl D to duplicate. So from here again, clear this, answer it. Okay, so Ctrl D again. Response rate. So clear this. Resolve rate. Resolve rate. So Ctrl D again. Okay, so for this here, we are appending our seconds. So we are going to concatenate. So ampersand in seconds. Okay, so we round this up to 0 decimal place. So round So, comma, 0, enter. Okay, so for this as well, so we concatenate with minutes. So we round this up as well. Round. So to 2 decimal place. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so let's bring it in. So clear this. Speed of response. Click enter. So let's duplicate. Okay, so that's that. So let's bring in our line charts. So insert pivot charts. So line and click OK. So let's remove the feed buttons and also remove this legend. And also this, we won't be needing the axis. So for the grid lines, let's remove the grid lines. So let's format this, no lines, no fill. So Ctrl X, Ctrl V. We are still going to format this. So now for the department call rate. So this is going to be a donut chart. Pivot chart. Donuts. Okay, so let's remove the feed buttons. Okay, so let's remove this legend and as well as this title. So Ctrl X, Ctrl V. So we are still going to format this properly. So let's bring them in first. Okay, likewise for resolve rate by department, pivot charts. So remove the legend, the title as well, and as well as the feed buttons. Okay, so call rate by daytime. So that's that. So let's bring in our employee donut charts as well. So the first one is Becky. Okay, so let's delete the legend, the title, and let's go with the fit buttons. So I will go ahead and bring for the rest of the employees as well. So down the lines. Okay, so that's that. So let's go ahead and format this donut chart. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove this background. So for this, no fill. In case if you are not seeing this here, so just right click on any of the charts and click format plot area. So that's that. So select the inner outer box, this is the chart area. So remove it. So for this one as well, no fill. Okay, so let's remove the border, no line, not line. Okay, now so for the chart, let's remove the border as well, no border. No border. No border. Okay, so that's that. Now let's increase the radius to 90%. So click on this, the chart itself, and click on series here. Then stretch it all the way, 90. Okay, so let's quickly do this. So for this large part, which is the resolved for each employee, so click on it itself. So after clicking on it, so change it to green. And this one, which is resolved no, as you can see, Becky no. So click on it and select red. So let's do for the rest of the employees as well. Okay, that's that. So let's do for this as well. So let's validate. Okay, blue, red, green. So for the blue color, let's use color picker. Okay. So light blue, a deep blue, green, yellow, red. So this Google theme color. Okay, so that's that. So now let's bring in the text box in the middle here. So to do that, so let's copy one of these, Control D. So the top, the coverage by department, the departments which have the most complaints. So it's television. So let's centralize it. Okay. So let's duplicate this. So the resolve rate by department. Okay, so that's that. So let's format this line chart as well. So I want it to be smooth. This one as well, smooth. Smooth. So for this text, I want it to be white. And also bold. So for this color, so we have blue, green, red. Blue, green, red. So this is the total calls. This was the call that was answered, while this one is the issue that was resolved. So as you can see, the margin between this is not that much. That's why you are seeing 90% out of the answer rate here. So that means out of the whole answer rate here, we were able to resolve 90% of those issues. That's why the margin is small. And also, if you see the answer rate compared to the total calls, as you can see, it's 81. That's 19% difference. So that's why the gap is wide here. So that's that. So let's remove this border. So let's format all this text box here. So it's going to be white. Let's increase it to 1%. So let's increase it. And also let's use GUI semi-UI bold. Okay, so now let's use format painter. Okay, so for this, okay, so that's that. So for this, remain for this one here. Okay, so we haven't defined the X lookup, so that means we are yet to get the maximum value here. So now let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be equals to X lookup. So we want the maximum value from this range here. So, and the array lookup array from here. So the return value should be this, and if it's not found, return 0. So the match mode should be exact, which is 0, and also 1 for search first to last. So close the bracket and click enter. So after none. Okay, so now let's get that value. Okay, so let's use our format painter. Okay, so and that's that. So now let's bring the employee labels. That means the name of each employees. So Becky. So let's copy this. Control D to duplicate. Okay, so let's bring in each of those employees metric, such as this metrics. So let's bring them in. So text box. Okay, let's copy this. Control D to duplicate. And also let's reduce the font size. 8 is good. So calls followed by calls, answer rates, resolve rates, calls, answer rates, resolve rates, speed of response, SR, AV, ATD, average talk duration, and ACSAT, so average customer satisfaction. Okay, that's that. You're on the right track. Okay, so now let's duplicate this for each and every one of those employees. So now let's bring in for the top performer and the least performer values. So let's duplicate this. And clear the values. Equals to. So our top performer, Greg. So let's format. Let's duplicate. And also for our least performer. So format painter. Okay, so that's that. So now let's bring in the rest of the employees metrics. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So let me copy Ctrl D. So let's reduce the font size. Okay. So remove this. So for Becky, here, the total calls. So let's duplicate. So let's reduce the font size. Let's leave it at 9. And also for this, let's leave it at 9. Okay, so let's change the value of this to answer rate. Answer rate for Becky, as you can see, 82. 2%. Let's reduce the font size. So let's change the text color to white. So white as well. And also I want to use Go UI semi-bold. Let's reduce it to 8. And also Go UI semi-bold. Let's reduce it to 8 as well. So now let's bring in the resolve rate. So Ctrl D. The resolve rate for Becky. So is at 89%. So format painter. So Ctrl D again. Speed of response. So let's bring in the value. Speed of response for Becky, 65 seconds. So format painter. So Ctrl D. Okay, so average talk duration. So it's 3.85 minutes. So format painter. Ctrl D again. Okay. So average customer satisfaction, 3.37. Format painter. Okay, so and that's that for Becky. So let me reformat this properly. Okay, so let's do for Greg as well. So I want to show you something from here. So let me copy all this. Let me copy this. Ctrl D. Ctrl D. And Ctrl D. Ctrl D again. Ctrl D. Ctrl D. Okay, so now for Greg. So click on this. Remove this. calculation. So Greg. Okay. Now answer rate for Greg. Okay. Now resolve rates for Greg. So let's select this. Okay, so as you can see from here, that the conditional formatting is not applying, which is this green text. So just applying as plain black. So to do that, we won't be using text box for this, but we'll be copying it and linking it as picture. So that's why I'm going to do that for this as well. So I just have to just bring this up before we proceed with the rest. Okay, so now to do that, so just click on this, copy, then right click and click on paste special as linked picture. Okay, so as you can see now, we now have the text in green color, so just place it here. Okay, so let's do for Becky as well. So delete this, head over to calculation and select this, Ctrl C, and here right click and select paste special and click linked picture. Okay, so that's that. So now to change this color and also to format it properly inside this text box here, so we are going to do the formatting from here. So it's going to apply in our dashboard since this is a linked picture. Okay, so as you can see, our conditional formatting is not changing. Okay, so that's that. Now let's adjust this here. Okay, so it's working properly. Okay, so for the font type, let's use Segway Semi-UI bold and reduce the font size. Okay, Segway Semi-UI bold, not light. Okay, so it's looking clean. Okay, so let's bring in the rest of this data. So speed of response for Greg. Speed of response is 68 seconds. Click enter. Average talk duration. Average talk duration was 3.82. And average customer satisfaction is 3.40. Okay, so now let's format this. Format painter. Okay, so now let's bring in the rest of the data for the rest of the employees. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's bring in the resolve rate. So we are still going to populate this data. So let's just bring in the resolve rate for each and every one of those employees. So for Dan, let's bring for Dan first. So right click, copy, and paste special linked picture. So drag it. Okay. So now for Diane, Ctrl C, copy, paste special linked picture. Okay. So for Jim, Ctrl C, paste special linked picture. Joe, Martha, Ctrl C, Okay, so now let's populate the rest of the data. So for Dan, answer rate. For Dan, speed of response. So that's that. So we have defined all our employees metrics. So you can be able to compare performances among the employees. So, okay, so now let's bring in our slicer. Okay, so from here, pivot table, insert slicer. So we want our slicer for month and click OK. So let's customize this. Columns to be 3. And also we don't need the header slicer settings. We don't need that. So let's make a connection to the rest of our pivot table. Okay, so check this box, each and every one of them. So that the filter, so that the month filter can apply on each and every one of those charts and KPIs. Okay, so Control X to cut and Control V to paste. Okay, so let's customize this. Okay, so slicer. So new slicer style. So the whole slicer, let's format it. So let's make this background to match this here. This is our dashboard. So let's remove the border first. No outline. Fill. So let's use our color picker. Control A, Control X. More colors. Custom. Okay. And select this. Okay, so let's modify. So our text color should be white. And let's make the default to be 8 and click OK. Okay, so let's increase selected with data format, so the fill color should still match the previous color. So our font, let's leave it as 10 and the color should be white. Okay, so let's select this. Okay, so as you can see, we have the total complaint volume of 1772 and we're able to answer 82% of them, and also able to resolve 90% of those issues. Okay, so that's that for that. So as you can see here, our slicer is making changes to our pivot table. So let's restructure this. Let's restructure it. So for this result, let's use arrow. Okay, so now let's filter again from February. Okay, so as you can see now, it's in order. Okay, so let's go ahead and go and format and so let's go ahead and complete formatting our slicer. Modify. So unselected item with data. So let's still leave it as it. The fill color, more colors, custom. So you still match the same background, borders, no outline, font. Let's still leave it as it. And for the font color, let's choose white. And also this one, let's remove the border from here as well. Border, none. Font, let's make it 12 and see how it looks. Okay, so as you can see, there's a difference between this and this now. So let's select January. Okay, so it's working. So for March. Okay, so from here you can see our top performer for the month of March is Greg, while our least performer is Dan. So as you can see, it is making the changes are taking effect. So let's clear the filter from the slicer. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in our icons. Okay, insert this device. So the graphics outline is going to be white. Let's increase this. Okay, so let's check for the rest. Activity, settings, logout, activity, insert. Okay, so let's bring in our profile icon. So our title. Okay, guys, and so that is it. So as you can see from here, we are done with the creation of the dashboard. So this one are just for design purpose, they are not functional. So as we have multiple pages in our dashboard, then we can create separate background for each and every one of these icon on the sidebar or navigation bar. Okay, so we can filter. As from here, we can see that our peak call month is January, then followed by February, and the list being match. For the resolve rate and the answer rate, as you can see, there's not much margin. So out of 100% of answer rate, we're able to resolve 90% of those issues. And our average speed of response is 68 seconds. So let me put average here. 68 seconds, and our average talk duration is 3.75 minutes, and average customer satisfaction is 3.40. So our average customer satisfaction score is poor. Yes, it is poor, but it's still fair, but it's poor. Okay, and also you can see that our top performer generally is Greg, and the least performer is Stewart. Let's check for the month of January and say the top performer and the least performer. So as you can see, most of the complaints for January came in the morning, and also our least performer for January is Becky, and Dan is the top performer, and we receive a total of about 1,772 calls, and also we're able to answer 82% of them. That means we weren't able to answer 18%. So the efficiency here is not that great as well, but it's still good. It's not that great, but still good. And the resolve rate is still good. Is good. So, and also for the month of January, most of our calls came from TV, for TV complaints, and we also have to resolve majority of those by department from TV as well. Let's check for February. For February, it is fridge, and for March, okay, so for March, you can see, look like it's air conditioner for March. So most of the complaints we're able to resolve is for the air conditioner, and also most complaints is about the toaster. Okay, so that will be all for this, guys. So have a great day. So if you do like the video, please like, subscribe, and share. Turn your notification bell. So that will be all. Thank you.